Hello, everyone. It's Charlton. Please subscribe to my channel and tap the notification bell. I'd appreciate it majorly. So, just doing a little follow-up on this, the story that it's been reported on tons, even though there's not a whole lot of new information. In fact, the authorities basically, and I think the Texas Rangers are involved, the FBI is involved, as well as the Austin Police Department, who was originally is probably running the investigation. They're no closer to solving this or knowing what happened to Heidi Broussard and their 2-week-old or nearly 3-week-old daughter, Margot Carey. And there's not a whole lot of new information. They are keeping it pretty close to the chest. I don't think a single police officer has given a televised interview so far, which is troubling a little bit. I mean, I'll just get right to the point, and I'm probably going to turn out being wrong. That gives me pause. The fact that the police haven't given any interviews or any kind of press conferences, nothing. And they basically they've said yesterday that they have been too busy trying to find this mother and her daughter to do that. And I believe that's true, but still it gives me pause to say what I'm about to say right now. And I know this goes against what many people believe. I don't know, man. I just, initially his interview, and I'll go over some of the specifics and what's basically fairly well known by now in terms of the timeline that everyone's working by. His interviews were very, weird. Particularly the one that the raw, unedited 16-minute interview for the local ABC affiliate that I think a portion of eventually aired on. Good Morning America. However, and he won't look into the camera, and there's times where he just doesn't feel comfortable. First he's sitting, then he's standing up, he's rocking back and forth. Then he pauses and doesn't like how it's going and wants to stop and then restarts. And I mean, you will have to keep in mind that he's talking to a phone. He's talking to an interviewer who's not sitting in front of him. It's somebody who's on a phone and he's listening to an interview with camera and lights in his face at the same time. And so he's not looking at the camera like, I have trouble looking at the camera. People tell me all the time, look at the camera. They say, whatever. Just look at the camera, idiot, to me. And I have the most difficult time doing it, like on a consistent basis, because I'm looking at some dot, and it just feels weird. And I don't have, my wife or my fiance and my newborn baby missing. So, I don't know. I mean, and he says in that interview that he's repeated this already like 5 times, 10 times. He's given several interviews in different locations. But if you watch this interview, when he's asked the question by the reporter, he looks at her. He looks at her directly, and he's not afraid to do that. I could end up being wrong about this, but I don't think he's guilty. It's like, like a lot of people are putting that out there big time because of the Chris Watts previous story and stuff. And my suspicion, my hunch tells me that somebody, basically abducted her for the baby, for the newborn, and they're basically stealing the newborn. And it's, that's equally scary. I mean, it's terrible. And we have no idea about their safety and what. But I think if you just go by the time that he had to potentially kill her, it's almost impossible to do it and to get rid of her without there being just evidence all over the place in broad daylight at his apartment complex. He goes to work. I mean, some of these things have to be known by the authorities. They already have the picture of her, at the elementary school where she dropped off the 6-year-old and also went to the book fair, bought 3 books. They have a picture of that. She dropped him off at 7:30. There's an image from 7:50, 20 minutes later. He says she called him around 8 a.m., and he had already gotten to work. And right about that time, he was basically getting into his work day, getting into his truck. I believe he works for a moving company, something like that, drives a truck. There's got to be a record of that. There's got to be a record of him going to work until the time that he says he returns at 2 o'clock. So he has to be at work up until then, or the authorities know that. I understand from 2 to the time to 6 p.m., 7 p.m. 6 p.m. I think is when he picked up his son. I think his son's name is Siler. And many reports say from school. But I don't think, he says in this interview from daycare, so it could be that the son goes directly from school to daycare and then gets picked up by his mother or father, and maybe normally his mother, but this time by his father. He got a call from, somebody that nobody ever came and picked up Siler. So he went and picked him up, came back, and the wife's still not there. And by about 7:30, he calls police. So basically from 2 to 6, you would have to have a murder take place and him get rid of all that evidence. I don't know. And nobody see that in broad daylight. Not in an apartment complex, apartment complex where there's many, many people living. I just don't see how it's possible. And it just seems to me the fact that it's a 2-week, 3-week-old baby, that's what is the biggest factor here, and that's what I think somebody was stealing this baby. That's my thought. I could absolutely turn out to be wrong, and I've already had this debate with other persons, and they think I'm wrong, I think. But I don't know. I'm just like I'm saying, I don't know how from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock this could have all taken place. The FBI are combing his apartment right now, He does screw things up in his interview, even in this interview where he does look at the reporter. He says that, the only thing that was missing was her keys and her cell phone, which he said he tried to call her at 1:40 and it was turned off. Part of the reason he didn't get too alarmed is he says she frequently visits with somebody in the apartment complex, and that's where he thought, a friend that lives in the same apartment complex, and that's where he thought she was, and so from he's probably, I don't know, he's just chilling basically from 2-3 o'clock till 6 for a few hours, and then gets a call from school, and then starts to get worried, when he comes back and she's still not there. But he does say, initially he says her purse and all of her belongings, her wallet, money, ID is initially he said was in the apartment. Then he said it's in the car. And he makes the note that her car door was unlocked, and he says that's unusual. Honest to goodness, I could end up being totally. I don't think he's guilty. I don't. I think somebody even possibly, abducted her with that child, and maybe more than one person, and they drove the car back to the apartment complex, and then just forced her to come with them in another vehicle and leave the car. The car seat's up in the house, though. It is up in the house, I believe. So that doesn't necessarily work out either. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'll end up being wrong. Just again, like from 2 to 6, 2 to 7:30. I don't know how he could have done that and not been noticed. I guess at 5:30, 6 o'clock gets dark still. I just don't see it. I don't know. I could be wrong. But like I said, the authorities say they are no closer to finding out where she is, and they have no persons of interest. That they could be lying about some of these things. But it literally says in this, is it this one? The Austin Police Department said there are currently no persons of interest in the search for a missing mother and her newborn. So no persons of interest right now over at the Daily Mail. The headline is that they're no closer today to knowing what happened to her than they were when they first started. Police have admitted they are no closer to finding missing Texas mother Heidi Broussard and her three-week-old daughter after they vanished 5 days ago, but said they believe the pair are still alive. They believe the pair are still alive. I'm telling you, dude, I think I might be right about this. I really do. The 33-year-old and her baby, Margot Carey, haven't been seen since the morning of December 12th when Broussard dropped off her son at his Austin elementary school. The pair were reported missing by Broussard's fiance, Shane Carey, who was also Margot's father, at 7:30 that night. So like I said, he's picked up his son around 6 p.m. and by 7:30, he explains in this interview here who I don't know who he's standing with. It's obviously either his father or his father-in-law. That they've searched across the street, to see if there's any security cameras. The father-in-law explains that the traffic light actually has a camera, but it only takes a still shot when there's an infraction, like when somebody runs a red light. But they were inquiring at whatever's across the street, whether it's businesses or not. If there's surveillance, they were inquiring from anybody in the apartment complex if they have dash cam, that might have picked up anything. In another interview, in this one here, this is the thing. He's been interviewed by several different outlets. I understand that ABC interview, it just didn't go well, and it made it, and he is physically crying. He's a mess, man. But it didn't go well. But that's just how these, when you never give interviews before and you're saying things over and over again. And, those interviewers, they just want the interview, But here, he was talking to CBS Austin, and they somehow managed to catch up with him right outside of a T-Mobile store. And he said he was there trying to get phone records, which, I assume he probably was. Why would he go there to just to time it to be interviewed by CBS Austin, that he was out in front of the T-Mobile getting phone records? I believe he was genuinely there to do that. Even in this, and it says Friday, we talked to him at a T-Mobile store where he was trying to get cell phone records, anything he says to get Heidi and Margot back. If you see an Austin mom with a baby walking around or in a suspicious van or car or anything, please just call, Carey pleaded. Can't remember if that's where that interview is. I saw that picture of him. Anyways, but even the Daily Mail, and the Daily Mail is a little bit more sensational than some of the other outlets. I read the Daily Mail all the time, so I'm not totally knocking it. But they totally, they at one point it says, and he does say in this interview that he was checking like the dumpsters, to see if maybe somebody chucked her keys in the dumpster or just anything. But, in the Daily Mail, it kind of says like he did that the very first, he did that the day she went missing. But I think he says the first day, and I believe it's the day, the next day, the Friday. She went missing on Thursday, was the last time she was seen, Thursday morning. I think he's talking about the first day being the first day she's officially sort of missing. He went and looked around and was looking in the dumpsters at the place, looking to see if he couldn't find something. He says her keys or anything, because everything is there except her keys are gone, her phone, the baby, and her. But my point is that the way it's sort of worded in some of these reports, it's kind of like pointing in the direction of him. And I'm not so sure, dude. And even in that interview, he says something that's different than the way it's worded in this report. So, let me just see if I can't give that to you so you see what I'm saying. So, Carey told Fox 7 that when he first noticed Broussard was missing, he walked around the apartment complex going through dumpsters to see if he could find her keys. Which to me, when I initially read that without watching the Fox 7 interview, I was like, wow, that's pretty fishy. That's pretty weird, And that's almost sounded like he was worried he was going to be seen going to a dumpster or something, so he did that, and so he said that. But he doesn't say that. He says that the first day, and I think that means the following day. I'm beating this point to death, but so Carey said he got a call from Silas's school soon after saying Broussard hadn't returned to pick up her son. He said he went to pick up the boy and that Broussard still wasn't home when he returned. Police were notified several hours later. Again, that's several hours later. It is several hours from the 2 p.m. that he got home, but not several hours from the time he picked up his son. From the time he picked up his son, it was 6 p.m. So after that, after he finally he gets the call saying nobody picked up his son, and so, something's wrong. He goes, picks up his son, comes back, his fiance is not there. He calls the police at 7:30. Carey told, I said, and then he says, Carey also said, I sat outside to see any suspicions, anything that was weird. He said he sat outside, just talked to anybody that was out there did anybody see anything? I could end up being wrong about this, but I don't know. So, one of the detectives, Harry's, is one of the Austin detectives probably leading the case from the Austin Police Department, declined to answer questions Tuesday about whether there had been previous domestic abuse reports from Broussard's apartment. The detective noted that authorities currently do not have reason to believe that Margot or her mother have been harmed. It's possible that Heidi and Margot have left on their own accord, Harry said. It's also possible that there may be something nefarious or foul play involved. To be honest, we don't know the answer to that question. And I think her mother, is there, and she's originally from Louisiana. Monday evening, CBS Austin spoke with Heidi's mother, Tammy, over the phone. Tammy says she's in Austin actively searching for Heidi and Margot. She says despite social media speculation, there have been no changes in the case. The disappearance of Heidi Broussard and Margot Carey is still a very active and ongoing investigation. We don't have any new information to provide at this time. Detectives are actively working the case and are not able to step away at this time to provide on-camera interviews. We continue to ask for the public's assistance in locating Heidi and Margot. If anyone sees them or knows of their whereabouts, please call 911 immediately. Actually, in this interview as well, this individual on the right, whether that's his father or father-in-law, I don't know, I don't know who that is, says that they were hiring somebody themselves who basically does police work that, that's a professional with all the latest technology, to basically help in an investigation, So that's pretty much all that's known so far. But like I said, the FBI is involved, and they were combing through his apartment, which is natural, no matter what. And the FBI and Texas Rangers have since joined the search efforts for the mother and daughter. FBI agents were spotted scouring the home where Broussard lives on Tuesday. Police believe Broussard returned home after dropping her 6-year-old son Silas off at school before vanishing. Investigators are trying to determine if Broussard left on her own or if the pair are victims of foul play. Detectives have been interviewing her family and friends and reviewing surveillance footage from the Austin apartment complex where Broussard lives. There's got to be surveillance. I mean, there's got to be surveillance from several places, from several angles. I mean, even if it's just momentarily from, like he said, dash cams. It's got to be something. That's why I just can't see how it could have been him and he could ever thought he would get, not get detected. And it seems like he's actually actively participating in the search. Detectives have been interviewing family and her friends and reviewing surveillance footage from the Austin apartment complex where Broussard lives. Harry's refused to confirm or deny whether there had been previous domestic call-outs to the family home, but did say past police contact is part of the investigation along with media reports. Again, this is the Daily Mail. I'm sorry, but whoever wrote this article, sorry, dude, but that's the part of any investigation. Harry's also refused to confirm if Broussard's fiance was a suspect. Even though it says over there, there's no person of interest. It comes after Carey gave a tearful TV interview over the weekend saying that it didn't believe she would have, he didn't believe she would have left on her own accord. He's asked in this, he's asked in this interview, that people are going to be questioning, you, and how does that make you feel? And, he says he just ignores it, and, obviously he doesn't like it. I don't know. I'm just telling you, my first instinct is that somebody wanted that 2-week-old, 3-week-old baby, and that's the motive, the cause behind all this, and that leads me to believe he didn't do it. And then also, what leads me to believe he didn't do it is, again, for the last and final time, between 2 and 6. I don't see how you could have killed somebody and gotten rid of that in broad daylight at an apartment complex. Don't see how it's possible. And that's the story there, man. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. I hope this, mom and her baby come home, man. I really do. I think there's a chance. Give me a like down below. I'll see you in the next video. Later, man.